Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, 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 this time power, this time to build power, this time to build power, this time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton.
And this is Nate Drolet.
And Nate, you and I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours talking about training for climbing, how to improve at climbing. And I think that the majority of the climbing podcasts and the content creators spend a lot of time talking about how to get better at climbing. And, not that it's a bad thing, but a lot of the time is spent talking about physical training. How do we improve our finger strength? How do we improve our endurance? Whatever it might be. One thing that gets left out are the mindset shifts needed to access that next level of climbing, whatever it is. And I think this goes across every sport, really. To break 10 seconds in the 100, there's a mindset shift required to understand that you can do it. To break 16 feet when I was in high school pole vaulting, there was a mindset shift I had to make, So I think in climbing, especially at the at least in the US, the 513, 514, and V10 levels, there are big mindset shifts you have to make. So you and I are diving into those three numbers. Today, we're going to be talking about how to shift from the V single digits into the V double digits and the mindset shift you have to make to be able to do that, or the mindset shifts that worked for us when we were doing it. And if you are a sport climber and you want to hear the 513, 514 versions of this conversation, you can do that on our Patreon. There are hundreds of episodes on there as well about all different types of subjects. We try to put out at least 2 every month, and we've done that for a number of years now. So you can go do that for as low as $3 a month, become a patron, get all those bonus episodes. When you were, I think we should probably set this up because I think our experiences bouldering were a little bit different. When you were approaching V8, V9, and starting to think about climbing V10, how did bouldering fit into your climbing life?
Compared to sport climbing?
Yeah, just climbing in general. Was bouldering the main thing? How much time were you spending on it? Where did it fit?
Yeah, my way of climbing, I just loved to climb. And so when it got too hot to boulder, I went sport climbing. And when it got too cold to sport climb, I went bouldering. So that was my main split throughout the year. I would say generally it was probably 5 months sport climbing, 7 months bouldering, realistically. And there would be a little bit of, maybe I would sport climb a little bit later into the year if I was really excited. But typically winter and spring were bouldering. Summer and early fall were sport.
Were you living in Chattanooga when you did your first V10?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Which helps.
Yeah. When I was approaching that level, when I did my first V9, bouldering was still a weekend trip, or actually wasn't even a weekend trip yet. It was a week-long trip between Christmas and New Year once a year. That's all bouldering was for me. And all of the rest of the time was either sport climbing, trad climbing, or training for climbing on a rope. So bouldering was still kind of a vacation sport for me at the time. Part of that was because I lived 6 hours away from any really good boulders that I knew of.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, I'll just jump right in. For me, that was the first big mindset shift I had to make, was stop treating it like a vacation sport. This isn't just a thing
that's a
I
good
do
one.
when I go on a trip. It has to be the goal. I have to train like a boulder in the gym, and then I have to commit to like weekend trips where I'm driving 6 hours each way, which was a lot harder than just going to the red and going sport climbing,
Mhm.
That was my first big mindset shift. Make bouldering the actual goal and treat all of my time like bouldering is the goal.
I like that. Yeah. And especially for trips, because even for people who train for bouldering or just train for any climbing, I feel like bouldering's more common though, that trips can also feel like vacations because
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that is their vacation time. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go out to Bishop for, my 2-week vacation of the year. And it's very easy when you're on vacation being like, well, yeah, I want to eat all the food, drink all the drinks, and stay up late and hang out with friends, which is, totally fine, totally great. But, athletic peak performance and beach holiday aren't the same thing. Yeah, and especially combining the two don't tend to work very well. So this is something I see very common with a lot of people is, they they train, they're excited, but then for when trips happen, it's a holiday. And so climbing is a lot of times just secondary to holiday.
Yeah, totally. That's pretty much what it was for me. Like I had bouldered in the red, which was closer to me,
Mhm.
but it was always in service of trad climbing. Like I would go look for roof crack boulder problems,
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't really climb on actual boulders until I went to Chattanooga between Christmas and New Year. And then it was like, let's go sample all the boulders. Let's go try everything. Let's go to all the
Totally.
boulder fields in this 1 week trip that we have, I just wasn't treating it like performance at all.
Yeah.
And once I shifted into that mindset of treat it like performance, then it became easier to see the path to get to V10. I will say everybody's gonna, if you're treating it like a vacation thing, which I know a lot of people from like the Cincinnati area did.
Mhm.
If you're treating it like a vacation thing, the level that you stop at when treating it like that is going to be different for everybody. You might get to V5, you might get to V10 that way. So whatever that next grade is for you, you're probably going to have to start taking it more seriously before you can break through that wall.
Yeah. Was there a specific boulder or moment for you where you're like, oh, okay, I need to put on my shark beanie and really get serious?
It's funny you bring up that shark beanie. I just thought about it today, actually, because one of my other points has that shark beanie played a big part in it.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, and actually it took me a long time to really say, okay, I could climb V10. And for me, it was robbing the Tooth Fairy because I had only done, that might have been my first V9 actually. I'd only tried a V9 or two and only in a very cursory way. I might have done like a long endurance V9 at the Dayton Roof that felt more like climbing a 13B to me.
Yeah.
But when I tried robbing the Tooth Fairy, and it's a traverse and it has more moves than a lot of, hard boulders do. But it was also short enough that it didn't feel like an endurance climb. And I was able to do it really quickly. Like first try, second session or something. And that was like, oh, I can climb this grade. Now I need to buckle down. Like I had dabbled on V10 at that point too. I had tried honeycomb roof at Dayton and just couldn't put it together. The crux move felt too hard. I probably tried a couple other V10s and everything just felt like there was one move I couldn't do, so it wasn't until I did Robin the Tooth Fairy that I was like, you know what? If I find a V10 that suits me, I can climb it. So I need to take it seriously and go look for that.
Cool. That's great. All right. So my first one is, and this is I will say this is actually a mindset I had to eventually get rid of. This was a fixed mindset, and probably not a good one in the grand scheme of things, but it'll make sense why I do think this was helpful for me. I very much had a fixed mindset around not being able to get strong. This was in an era of, well, you were a Chris Sharma or a Dave Graham. There were body types.
Right. Yeah.
Are you naturally a strength athlete or an endurance athlete? And I had convinced myself, everyone talked about, what are you naturally good at? What are you gifted at? It wasn't what you earned. It was kind of, what you had, at least. And then it was like, okay, we'll play with the cards you have. But to very much an extreme, much more than it is now. And I was a distance runner before climbing. Before that, I was a swimmer who just swam a ton of volume. When I got into climbing, it was more.
You're also a bowler. Let's not forget bowling.
I was a competitive bowler. I think about bowling a lot. If I have no proof that it would blow up my elbow to get back into it, but I think about it often. I'm pretty sure I would get terrible elbow tendonitis. But yes, I was also a bowler. But honestly, even with bowling, more was more.
Yeah.
I could just every day after, I would get out of high school after cross country or track practice, I would have my bowling ball. I'd strap it to my motorcycle. I'd ride to the bowling alley. I'd bowl until 5:30 until leagues started. Because as a high school student, you paid $50 once a year. And anytime before 5:30, I could bowl as many frames as I wanted. So I was there after school every day, and then every Saturday and Sunday. And I logged the hours. This is how I knew how to get better at things. Just get more reps in. And climbing was no different. I mean, I've talked about I did a lot of climbing. I mean, I looked at it today. To get to V10, I had done 120 boulders, V7 to V9. More is more. But I had convinced myself, I was like, well, I'm an endurance athlete. I'm not I can't get strong physically. I'm not built that way. I climbed around also just a lot of monsters. I moved to Chattanooga in the same month as Jimmy Webb. We climbed together a ton, along with other guys Brian Voges, Nate Drawn, Brad Weaver, a lot of all those people. The weakest one has climbed V14. And then there was me who it was really fun going back through my 8A. I was I remember multi-day projecting V4s and V5s and thinking about it and being oh, these were great memories. But dude, I had to work so hard for all of these things. But I had convinced myself I couldn't get stronger. Truly, the short of it is that I was just doing too much. I'd climbed 6 days a week, mega sessions. Some people could handle that. Jimmy could handle that. I couldn't. And I just never got stronger because I was never recovering. So I told myself, okay, well, I still want to climb harder. And, I can't get physically stronger. What are all my other tools? So I leaned into, how do I get better? I wanted to climb every single type of boulder. If I wanted to get good at crimps, well, training didn't work for me. So I needed to just go climb all the crimp boulders. How did I learn how to do all of these things? And yeah, it was something that I really had to eventually get rid of. But I do think this mindset of, okay, I'm not getting stronger today. You would never hear me say, I'm not strong enough to hold this hold. Because what was I going to do? Go get stronger? In my mind, I just didn't think it was really going to happen. So I'd be okay, what else? How else do I do it? So I do think that gave me a huge boost in creativity and just optimism. Oddly enough, made me very optimistic about, okay, well, I can't do it like this. I can't use other people's methods. What can I do? And like I said, I don't think that's actually the perfect mindset. I think the best mindset is yeah, I believe I can get strong. with work. But then when you are actually climbing, like the second I'm in front of a boulder, I should have that mindset of, I'm not getting stronger in this moment. I'm only getting weaker every go, frankly. So what are all the tools I can use?
Yeah. When you finally did your first V10, what was your first V10, by the way?
Honeycomb. Yeah.
I think Honeycomb was mine as well.
I think so. And Robin the Tooth Fairy was my first 9.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think Honeycomb was mine, and then I did another V10 like a week or two later in the red. But anyway, when you did Honeycomb, were you still in the mindset that you can't get stronger, so you just have to get better, or had you already flipped to, okay, I can get stronger?
No, I had that mindset for many years after.
Got it.
Yeah.
Was there a boulder or a grade that was the impetus for you changing the mindset into, I actually can get stronger, or I need to get stronger?
Honestly, a lot of it was reflecting back. I think being a coach helped me because I could see what other people were doing. But I started reflecting back and just realizing, oh, I climbed too much. I wouldn't rest long enough between attempts. I mean, that's going to be one of my points here is like, I was a sport climber. So if I wasn't pumped, I could pull back onto the wall on a boulder, which is totally different than I'm recovered enough to be strong. Like, by such an enormous amount. It's crazy. I just kind of finally was able to take a step back and reflect on my own climbing and the way I would with someone else's and be like, oh no, I was just, what I was doing wasn't training effectively. Like, of course I was getting super fit. I was wildly fit, but I was training for fitness, like essentially thinking that I was training for strength. You know, I'd be like, okay, well, I want to get stronger at pull-ups. So let's do a pull-up pyramid, 1, then 2, then 3, up to whatever, 20, and then back down to 1. And then I'm like, why am I not able to do one-arm pull-ups? It's like, okay, you just did 100. Yeah.
Well, I asked that because I think, I came into climbing already really physically strong and with a background of strength training. So I was strong enough to do V10 when I started climbing, probably. My fingers may not have been, but that would have been it. And then you reached V10 without having the mindset of I need to get stronger. But I do think some people out there are going to have to shift out of the I need to get better into the I need to get stronger mindset. And it's going to go vice versa. Some are strong already and need to shift into the I need to get better. And I think that sort of leads me into my like parallel to yours, which was because I was a sport climber like you and I was training like a sport climber, I also thought about building a pyramid like a sport climber. And I was like, I have to go do a ton of V6s, a ton of V7s. And for me, V7 was the grade that unlocked V10. Once I realized that I could do any V7, because when I first was getting into V7, it was like, there are V7s that I'm just never going to do, that just don't suit me. This has a single move that's really hard. And that's where the shark beanie comes in, is Cinderella at Stonefort was a nemesis. It had one really hard move.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this move does not suit me. I will never do this move. This V7 is impossible for me. It's V10 for me, And then once I really dedicated myself to bouldering, like, I'm going to be a good boulderer now, I started to realize I need to spend time on these one single hard moves that don't suit me well and find the way to do them. And it was wanting to do every V7 that led me to that. I don't know that I would have gotten to that. I think I still would have treated it like a sport climber often does, where if you can't do all the moves first try, you're not going to even put time into the sport climb. I see a lot of people do that. And that's how I treated bouldering. If I can't do the moves, I'm just going to move on. If I don't do them in a couple tries, Cinderella took me a lot of trips to do that one move. And I would treat it like I'd go there in the middle of the day or at the end of the day and try the one move, and I wouldn't be able to do it, and I'd move on. Well, the day I bought that shark beanie and made that video was the first time I'd gone to Cinderella as the goal. I'm going to warm up. I'm going to go there. I want to do that boulder. I want to put my time into this one V7. Even though I can climb most of the other V7s in the boulder field, I'm going to go to this one and treat it like it's V10. And that day I did that move and I did the boulder. And for me, being able to climb all the V7s, any V7, and lock into even the hard moves that didn't suit me. And to me, like if I was going to give it a personal grade, it felt like V9 at that time. Totally. Because I had Robin the Tooth Fairy that took me a couple sessions, and then Cinderella that took me what felt like 7 years, Yeah. So for me, it felt harder. Like this is the hardest boulder I've ever done. And that really unlocked V10 for me, was making V7 kind of my base grade of my pyramid.
We've never talked about this because I very much, and this is going to be kind of what my next point ends up folding into, is for me breaking into V7 and making it to where I was like, okay, I am a V7 climber. The road was clear to V10 from there. Like I had zero, I was hard stuck at like V6, sorta could maybe find a V7 for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And then when I broke into V7, dude, I just like didn't stop for years.
When I think Chattanooga is a really special place to be able to break into V7 too. Like Stonefort has so many great V7s of different styles, and you can go do Celestial Mechanics, and then you can go do Cinderella, and then there's so many incredible V7s in that boulder field. Tennessee Thong,
so many. I truly think per square mile or kilometer, wherever you're listening from, there is nowhere in the world I have seen or been to that is better for the V7 grade than Stonefort. Like truly, I'll actually just skip ahead. This is one of my points. Like one of the things I think that benefited me the most of going, like breaking basically from like V6 to V10 and then beyond, was I loved every second of it. Man, when I moved to the Southeast, I was like just getting my lunch money stolen by like V5. And I remember thinking, if I could consistently if I could project 12B in the red and project V7 and in the South, and I could just do them in a couple days, that's it. Like my life is complete. That in my mind, these are the grades. I would just be having so much fun. I would never even need to get better. And you know what? When I got to those grades, I was fucking right. It was great. I loved every day of it. It was, and I think honestly, like this is something that I ended up losing at one point because I stopped appreciating where I was at. And I was like always trying to look too far ahead. But dude, you mean I get to go try Celestial Mechanics and Castaway and Tennessee Thong and Spyro Gyro and Deception?
Spyro Gyro.
Yes. All of it. Like every day was amazing that I got to climb V7. And then I was still still having trouble with the V5s and 6s. So I was climbing those and oh my God, like the wave, if like you put that in any boulder field in the world and it's a classic. There are so many good climbs and I loved it. I loved all of them. I had so much fun sport climbing in the red through the 512 range. Every day was a joy, and bouldering. I wanted nothing more than to climb all the V7s, all the V8s, all the V9s. I was so happy with where I was. And I truly think that was a huge mindset shift. Like, because earlier on, I was like, if I could just get to there, then I'd be happy. And it's funny because that is something that's always warned against, like, because you'll never reach it. Right. But I made it. But then I will say later on, like I hit a point to where I never planned to climb V11 or 514. Those were life list goals. And when I hit there, I was like, I don't know what's next really. And so I started like really, instead of just being like, hey, let's appreciate where you're at, climb all the things here and really enjoy it like you have been. I started looking too far ahead, and that really threw me off. But for me, wow, just appreciating where I was at was amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting that V7 felt that way for you too, because what I consider like my breakout trip, my breakout bouldering trip, that where I turned the corner, you were there. That was one of the first times I ever climbed with you. It was with Shannon Lamb and
Matt Hughes.
Matt Hughes was there. Maybe Keenan. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But that's the trip I did Celestial Mechanics. And it was one of those boulders that I had like touched on my little 1 week, touch all the boulder trips.
Yeah.
And was just like, this is impossible. Like,
yeah,
superstar level shit right here. And then everybody was climbing on it, and I tried it and gave it a real try and was like, oh, I could do this boulder today, And then I did it in a few tries and was like, whoa. And that for me was kind of a mind opening thing. And that's when I went down the path of, I want to climb all the V7s, I want to master V7.
Yeah.
So interesting that you had a similar experience, because I have distinct memories of you being there that day.
Funny. Yeah. Yeah. That was the breakthrough grade for me.
Cool. For me, part of the V7, mastering V7, and I alluded to this, but I didn't really get into the meat of it, was not just the figure out how to do one single hard move that I learned in the V7 grade, but also how to give intense effort. I had learned, and I had gotten really good at giving extensive effort. As a sport climber in the red, I could lunge and latch all day long. I could just keep going
clawing
until
through
there
the
was
pump.
until there was nothing left,
Yeah.
But I couldn't muster one really intensive effort. If I was going to do a boulder, I had to have some strength and reserve. Even those one single moves on the V7s, while I was learning to tactically break down one really hard move and find the subtle body positions, or the way to create momentum or whatever, it wasn't a give super intense effort, but it was kind of my gateway drug into how to give really intense effort. So for me, learning how to flip that switch, like how to find a routine to allow myself to enter a place where I could try as hard as possible in that one moment, especially pulling off the ground. Like if it was in the first one or two moves that I had to try really hard, that felt so foreign to me that early on I would just walk away and be like, can't do that, never
Totally.
mind. So learning that, I think, was the next big giant mindset shift for me. Find the routine, learn how to muster all that effort, and then apply it to all the things I learned by mastering the V7 grade.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Man, I would have to stop and think about when that one happened for me. But I mean, I was the same very much as that, like, the endurance athlete, do more, always dial it in more. Whenever I did things, people would be like, oh, it looked easy when you did it, which is, I wrote a blog years ago about like red flag phrases when you hear people say them to you, where it's like, this may feel good, but this is not the compliment you hope for. But if people tell you every time you send, they're like, wow, you just made it look so easy. A lot of times it's like, you could have sent earlier. You are dialing it in too much. Like, you probably could have sent 4 days before, or 30 tries earlier if it was a route, whatever it is. Like, and that was very much me for a long time. But wow, learning how to try hard, learning how to flip the switch, and also learning when. Those are such valuable lessons.
Yeah. I think the boulder I learned it on was probably River Dance.
Yeah, I can
That's the
see
boulder where I turned the corner on learning to try really hard.
that. Literally.
Literally. Yeah. Turn the corner, learning to try hard. And that's something that I've spent a lot of time really thinking about. I made a remix episode on this podcast that goes really deep into effort. And I've actually got a video on that I've been putting together for quite a while, but it's going to be a 45-minute long video. So it's with lots of people involved that'll come out somewhat soon. But I did put together a free toolkit that anybody can sign up for, the Try Harder Toolkit, that really dives into the research as well as the anecdote of how to give both intensive and extensive effort, how to develop a routine to pull you into which one of those you want to be into, and some drills you can do in the gym to practice them, gym or outside, to practice those things. So I'll have that link in the show notes if anybody wants to join the Try Harder Toolkit.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, man. And that is, I can't say enough about how valuable of a tool that is to learn. Sport climber or boulder.
Yeah, totally. And, as a Red River sport climber, I didn't need it all that often because I could turn it on to a degree if it were 50 feet up the wall.
Yeah.
Like if I could warm up into it, I learned to turn it on way up there. But now that I live in Wyoming and a lot of the routes here at Wild Iris and surrounding areas are like pull off the ground and explode. Like that's the beta,
That's also the route description in the guidebook for a couple of routes.
Step off the block and go boom is the route description for Atomic Stetson in Paul Piana's old book. And
okay, yeah.
I had to learn how to do that, and that taught me it. And now I'm much better at it than I was back then.
Nice. I love that. All right. So my next one is intentional practice. And specifically for me, learning how to use momentum. So I very much started climbing. I was a slow static climber and very square too. And a lot of this came from, I remember there were climbing pro tips that I could find on YouTube. And it was Malcolm Smith and Ben Moon both talking about, Malcolm was like, yep, only climb square because that'll train more power and it's so much easier to twist that anyone can twist. He also said you can't twist on small footholds, which is objectively wrong.
Yeah, crazy talk.
Like you just have to pre-place your foot in a twisted position. You can't put it on and pivot like it's on a giant trailer hitch jug, but you can drop me on the tiniest holds. Regardless, that man wasn't known for his footwork. He was known for being a beast. And so I wanted to be a beast. And he was just like, yeah, climb super square, super open. And Ben Moon was like, yeah, and if you want to get strong, his was lock off all the time because that builds more strength. Because he was like, anyone can dead point and move fast, but you got to be able to lock off too. And I had been climbing for, 3-4 months. And I was like, okay, that's what the pros are saying. Not realizing that they had also climbed. They had climbed so much on rock and they understood how to move well that those were, for them, decent pieces of like training advice. It's the same way. There's a video of Ned Feely board climbing talking about like, oh yeah, if you want to be effective on board climbing, climb square, don't toe hook, don't heel hook, do all this. But then if you watch him climb outside, that man heel hooks like a monster, better than almost anyone in the world.
Yeah. So, we forget that they had climbed at a really high level before they started board climbing.
Yeah. So I took this to heart and I just was naturally, I would say I'm like pretty good at locking off. That I've got a really good hip turnout and I've just always been way stronger at the bottom, at the very top of a pull up, like with my hand below my shoulder than I am at the top of it, like with my arm almost straight. So it fit me well. I got compliments on it. Like people would just be like, you look like a koala or a machine. I would take either.
Yeah.
And
a nice furry little machine.
Exactly. And that's how I climbed forever. And I got hard stuck at like V5, V6, and I could find like 1 or 2 V7s that maybe would fit me if I could like heel hook and lock off through them. And, it makes me think of, there's this Henry Ford quote that is, If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have told me they wanted faster horses.
Mm.
And I was at a point in my climbing career where I wanted faster horses. I wanted to just lock off further. In my mind, if I could lock off further on smaller holds, that's what would make me climb harder. Even though,
Right.
man, I had taken this one narrow skill that is also like locking off is a super specific niche skill that's not really as applicable as we all want it to be.
Yeah, totally.
And I had tried to just run it for all it was worth and got stuck. Then I had a semester where I was taking like 19 credits and I was like, I have no time. In hindsight, I had plenty of time, but it was good that I believed that. So I was like, okay, I want to get better. And I just got inspired. I was like, I want to learn how to use momentum. So I started studying people. And I found this was around the same time that Between the Trees, the movie about Ty Landman and Keith Bradbury going to Font. And Ty climbs everything in Font. First person to really go and like do that. And I was like, okay, Ty is my person I'm going to emulate. I'm going to copy his style in every way because he's masterful with momentum. And yeah, that was for me, I would say of all the things, the biggest change was I just embraced what I'm doing is wrong. It won't take me any further. How do I improve? And so I would like go in and we didn't have a spray wall or a board or anything. So I just go to commercial boulders and I would make up my own connections of like, okay, this is a move that I might be able to lock off, or I can lock off, but using momentum actually feels harder. Or I could dyno for this, but using momentum and keeping my foot on feels way harder. And for like 3 months, I didn't climb set boulders. I just made up my own problems, connecting holds on a commercial set. And yeah, that was a huge breakthrough. Like that season, I went from, I think having climbed like 2 or 3 V7s that all took me like 15 sessions to I probably climbed like 10. And then the next year I climbed like 40. And then, yeah, like the year after I climbed 8 V10s and 73 boulders, V7 and up.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got two of my most popular videos on YouTube are one is about how boulders are often held back because they don't spend that much time looking for stability, and that sport climbers are held back because they won't accept instability.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I fell into the same trap early on that I was looking for stability, which I find really interesting when I look back at it, because I was coming from a skateboarding and gymnastic background where it was all dynamic, all momentum.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say all, because I was a rings specialist and there were, strength elements to the rings, but I understood pretty well how to use momentum and how to be dynamic. But I fell into this is how the best climbers climb. You look at the Francois Legrands and the Fred Nicoles, and they climb with a ridiculously high level of control at all moments,
Yeah.
and that's how I modeled my climbing. So and I wasn't swayed when Chris Sharma came onto the scene and like was the first person to really be dynamic. I didn't fall into the trap of saying, "Oh, just wait till that kid, gains some weight. He's, he doesn't have any footwork. He doesn't know how to climb." I never fell into that trap, but I wasn't swayed enough to adopt a more dynamic style until I was getting into harder boulders and harder sport climbs and realized I can't sloth my way through all of these things, and I'm going to have to be more dynamic. So I think that's an especially easy trap to fall into coming from sport climbing. We crave the like, find stability to clip the bolt, find stability to shake and chalk, whereas boulders can just keep moving and they don't need to stop and clip a bolt, stop and shake out, stop and chalk up. So it's not built into their performance where it is built into the sport climbing performance.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, for me, that was a huge one, like learning, and it taught me to take a step back. And I think it's easy in climbing for us all to be like, well, this is my style. This is how I do things. And, it's right for me. Yeah. And this really opened my eyes to like, nope, other people climb. Like, I didn't believe I could get stronger. I had to get better.
Right.
I refused to believe I was going to be hard stuck at like V6. I was like, this is not my cap. I will not die on this hill. Um, and I was like, okay, I'm the problem. How do I fix this? And so for me, momentum was a huge one. Honestly, learning how to twist took me years.
Mm.
And then, I mean, I'm still iterating on learning how to use momentum better. Like, I had a crazy breakthrough like 3 years ago that it blows me away that I'm still spending every session thinking about, where I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can keep using momentum better in a different way. It's amazing. It is. I also think like it's probably one of the reasons why I got into coaching too, is just realizing like, oh yeah, there's so much that you can do that isn't get hands stronger, just pull harder.
Yeah, totally. Right now, people are going, what was the breakthrough? What was the breakthrough? But I think what we should do is do an episode about our biggest breakthroughs of the last 5 or 10 years, big realizations. So we should keep that in the pocket for now.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. Well, my last one ties into my others because I was treating bouldering like a holiday thing. I had to realize that going on a long trip or at least a long drive to get to boulders that I wanted to climb on, I was going to have to come home empty handed sometimes. I had to accept that. And frankly, I see this problem across all spectrums of climbing when people are jumping into projecting, that they want to climb a really hard thing. They'll go on a trip with the plan to climb a hard thing, and then as soon as it feels really hard and they're like, uh-oh, I might have to go home empty-handed, they shift gears and they're like, I didn't really want to do that. I just want to climb all the boulders, or I want to climb all the routes. I want to touch everything. I want to get some moderates under my belt, whatever. They make an excuse as to why they're not going to spend their time on this thing. And I had accepted that sport climbing at that point. Like, I had accepted projecting was going to take time, but boulders are little, I should be able to get those things done quick.
Yeah.
The sport climbs are long. It makes sense why it's going to take me weeks to break those into pieces and learn them. This boulder's 4 moves. And I couldn't accept that. So it wasn't until I accepted I'm going to have to go on 3 or 4 of these trips and come home empty-handed before I do the thing. That accepting that allowed me to go and come home empty-handed and work it out, and finally get it done.
Yeah. I think this is a big one, and one that is super underrated. Because I was looking through my old logbooks of how different years went, but it's funny. The year after I sent my first V12, I didn't climb anything harder than V10. But I would tell you objectively, that year that I didn't climb anything harder than V10, that was one of the biggest years of growth I've ever had. Because I was like, cool, I want to get better at crimping. And I'm going to spend a lot of time outside on crimp boulders between V6 and V9. And it doesn't matter what the grade is. If it's hard, I'm going to try it, and I'm going to try and do it. So yeah, I didn't send a new big number that year. I didn't even match my old one by 2 grades. But that was such an enormous reach forward for me. Where had I still clung to this idea of well, I've climbed V12. I need to keep climbing V12. I need to do, more 11s and things like that. I don't think I would have ever gained the finger strength that I gained from that year of, okay, this is the year Nathan learns how to crimp.
Yeah. That's an even harder thing to accept. Like, if you've climbed V12 and you go out to try a V8 crimp boulder and you have to go home empty-handed, having tried a V8 that day, that hurts the ego even more than, going out to try your hardest project and then coming home empty-handed. So kudos for that. I think that's another area of projecting that people have a really hard time accepting, is dropping the grade level to embrace a style that's really difficult, that feels just as hard for you as the harder grade does.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I threw in a few fluff boulders in there where I was like, I can go do this V10 second try. I would do that and then be like, okay, back to the vertical granite V7 that's 4 moves long that I'm on like day 9 of, kind of thing.
Well, that's another thing. I wouldn't say I was doing fluff boulders this way, but I was shortcutting this coming home empty-handed because I really went down a rabbit hole trying to find hard boulders closer to me. And that's when I was doing a lot of bouldering at the Red.
Yeah.
Red River bouldering had been developed a little bit, and I wasn't doing any new development per se. But what I was doing is going and trying this V10 that sits by itself, or that just going and trying these things that were closer to me that weren't the popular boulders to go try. I never saw another human out bouldering in the Red. So being able to accept that took the sting off of the coming home empty-handed, because I was only driving 2.5 hours as opposed to 6.5 hours to get to Chattanooga. So
yeah,
there are ways around it, I'm sure, for most people.
Yeah. All right. I got 2 left. I'll keep this first one really brief. The first one is just that I was okay switching my mindset throughout time. So I went from, I think it was 2009 when Adam Ondra had a famous video where he was like, I want to climb everything, slabs, verticals, overhangs. And me and all of my friends, we would just say this to each other. We would climb like a V5 slab and we'd be like, slabs, verticals, overhangs, just all the time. Yes.
I thought you said fractals at first. I'm like, what the fuck is a fractal?
Just, I want to climb everything. And I had that mindset for a while. Didn't matter what it was. And then I wanted to chase grades. I wanted to build a pyramid. I wanted to just climb lines. I wanted to climb big, beautiful things. I have a point system that I created that I've never shared that would, like, the philosophical boulder bros would just like have an aneurysm looking at how I broke this down into like, okay, I want to average V9 every day. V9 is worth 1 point. V10 is worth 2. 11 is worth 4. And then going down is worth fractions. So I had to literally earn my quota every day. I had a fucking blast. I loved it. It was so good. Like,
I had a similar system that was different than the normal system. We should do an episode about our systems that helped us improve too.
Yeah. And I was okay with just like leaning into whatever I was psyched on. Like, I think it's really easy, especially early on, dude. Like, I feel like earlier on, there are certain groups of people who'd be like, grade chasing is everything that's wrong with rock climbing. Yeah. And I was just like, whatever. I'm a runner. I like literally chased numbers for like, that was my passion. I am fine doing it now. And yeah, I was totally happy to keep bouncing around for whatever kept my motivation going. And I think that helped a lot. Like, I was pretty good at not listening to whatever the popular thing was or what other people might say. I'm saying right now, I did not share my fractional system, because even then I was like, I'm doing this and I'm excited about it. But like, no one needs to know this is why I'm going out and doing 4 V6s, 2 V7s, and 1 V8 today, because I got to hit quota.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also just, I'm a mercenary of rock. I want to do everything.
I think adding in a little gaming, game the system a little bit and continuing to just have fun doing what you're doing. That goes so fucking far, and people tend to forget that you can also have fun while you're doing all this stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think it keeps you from building an identity around one aspect of climbing that can ultimately hold you back. Like, if you're the arete guy, if you're the I only climb the best lines guy, you don't get to go do the eliminates in front of everybody that are just fun and can help you improve. You have to go climb the pure line because that's your identity now.
Totally. Like, I went through phases of, I don't want to ask for beta on anything, because this to me is a really fun way of exploring rock climbing. And then there were times I wanted to just flash boulders. Like, I'm going to pull up every video. I'm going to ask everyone everything. and I have a really good memory for beta. Anytime someone would talk about a boulder, even if I had never been to that boulder field, I would memorize what they would say in case I wanted to go try and flash it. But yeah, I think this helped me a lot, was just not letting that get in the way.
Yep, totally.
All right, very last one for me was learning that climbing with other people at my own level, and especially people who filled the gaps that I didn't have, was way better for me than climbing with people stronger than me. Like, I had climbed with people stronger than me for so long, but like way stronger than me, like sometimes tripling my grade. And that just,
and there's
that
value in that.
Yes. Like, there absolutely is. And a lot of people will just say, they're like, oh, you know, if you want to climb V15, climb around V15 climbers. Brother, I've climbed around a lot of V15 climbers. And I know, like, I can tell you a lot of amazing tactics, like good mindsets. I learned a lot from them. But at a certain point, when someone's so much better than you, the amount of belief that you get from seeing someone else do something, it's not there. You're like, well, of course they just flashed that V13. They are them. I am not. Yeah. Where for me, a huge breakthrough was finding people who really filled the gaps for me. Like, I love beta exploration, and I know how to try really hard, but knowing when to do it is hard for me. So if I climb with other people who are just more like bull in a china shop climbers, where they're just like, I don't like finding beta. Cool. I'll find beta for the both of us. And then you keep reminding me that, like, pulling on, knuckling down, and hucking meat, like, that gets the job done a lot of times. Yeah. Man, I've had so many good climbing partnerships where me and someone else just like really vibed off each other's energy. And yeah, I climbed my first V10. It took me like 15 sessions on my own. That summer I climbed 7 more. A lot of them were like 1 to 2 session boulders. And it was because I was climbing with someone else who, man, we just connected. And for me, like, you know, we'll talk about another episode, like me climbing 514, very much it fed off of climbing with other people. And kind of the last thing I'll say on this is that I had to stop always wanting to do my own plan, because I have my idea of this is what a perfect day looks like for Nathan. And I learned, like, you know what? If someone else is super motivated and like I get along with them well, like our energies work really well, and they want to go to a boulder that, yeah, it's not at the top of my list, but it'd be fun, I often will just scrap my plan. I go with them. And man, that's a lot of my hardest boulders have been because of those sessions.
Totally. I don't know if you watched it, but I just put out a video about partnership. And
ooh, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, a lot of it goes into the fact that there's quite a bit of evidence saying we learn better from people who are around our level than the people who are much, much better than us. And the balance between being selfish and selfless, and how you have to be both, can go into a really great partnership. So I'll have the link to that video in the show notes as well, because I think it's really fascinating that we tend to want to learn from the pros and the people who are way, way, way better. But the evidence pretty strongly suggests that people who are just a little better than us, or even a little worse than us, when they come up with new solutions that we can also access, that's the better way for us to learn. So
I totally believe
that's a great one. I agree. That played a part in mine for sure.
Yeah. I can't recommend it enough. And the cool thing is, climbers are so different that even when we climb together, like, you're so much better at certain things, I'm better at certain things. Like, totally. It doesn't matter who, like, we both get so much out of it. And that is how it is for a lot of people. It's like, I can be climbing with someone who's 6'2", and we can still get a lot out of climbing with each other versus, I mean, I can also climb with someone who's 4'11", which I have for a long time. Like, and totally. That also,
and there can be a little bit of friendly competition there. Yeah. Which is an important part of getting better and pushing yourself. And there's a lot of evidence saying that works if it can remain friendly. And you don't get that. Like, I'm not going to have a friendly competition with Adam Andra or Alex Magos or Jimmy Webb or There's no competition. I'm just going to get crushed every single time.
Yeah.
No matter how
Best case, it
supportive
just
they
stays
are.
friendly. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, I know you got to get out of here, and if you are a sport climber especially, or if you want to be a sport climber, go listen to those 513 and 514 episodes by becoming a patron. We got several new episode ideas in this one, so be on the lookout for those. Nate is always open for consultations. That link will be in the show notes, and both of us are on YouTube. You'll find that link there as well. And if you have not, I would love it if you sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Current, where I connect the dots between all the things we've been doing and thinking about so that we can all learn, grow, and excel.
Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, 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 this time.